So Buddhism, right? I was asked about this. What about Buddhism? The trouble with Buddhism is not so much the fact that it does not recognize the self, because you are not you and I am not me. We're just a collection of um, various parts. There's no self. There's no you in you. It's just kind of like materialist atheism, that view. Although I find that modern day America, most materialist atheists are not either smart enough, intellectually honest enough, or brave enough to recognize that there is no you if you're embracing this idea. But going on with Buddhism, Buddhism accepts that. It says basically the Buddhists said, for the purposes of enlightenment, um, there's no God, there's no afterlife, and there's no soul. The Buddhist view of karma, of the cycle of death and rebirth, is like it's not like the Hindu, right, where you have this soul that goes through um, uh, various heavens and hells and reincarnations. You do a lot of evil stuff. You either become a lower life form or you incarnate in hell and burn off the bad karma until you get back up to being a person. If you build up enough good deeds, then you're in the heavens and you burn off that good karma and come back down, and you eventually try to escape to the Brahman. Or is it Brahma? I don't know. It's been like 15 years since I've read that stuff. The infinite sea of light, the one true thing that's behind all reality. Basically, God, in an impersonal sense. Buddhism doesn't have this. It has the karma gets passed on, not you. The goal of Buddhism is annihilation and zero karma, neither good or bad. And there's no morality in there. There's no. It's more like wise or foolish. Now, how do you have no karmic interaction with the world? Not being attached to anything, right? I mean, look at the Four Noble Truths. Desire and attachment, these things are cause suffering. So, um, in suffering comes from yourself. It doesn't come from outside. Um, while the Eightfold Path, you'd run into things where you might give rice to a monk or something like that, or be helpful to people. There's no great strive to undo any injustice because there's no concept of justice. Right? There's no moral law. There's no deity. There's no God that has set forth this moral law. It's just acting wisely or acting foolishly, and it's foolish to be attached to any of this impermanent world. Um, you have a family member. You have a son or a daughter, mother and a father, brothers and sisters. When they die, you should not have a actual practicing um, Buddhist would not would just recognize that, oh, they're dead. No tears, no lament, no sadness. Your child is born. Well, first of all, you wouldn't have romantic love, right? That's an illusion because it's um, Buddhism has this strange thing where if it's transient, then it's worthless, basically, and will lead to suffering. Um, where I think most people would say, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Not in Buddhism. Um, so um, looks like 10,000 people are about to die, from a collapsing building or a sinking ship. You'd be worried, oh my God, they're gonna die. And then at the last minute, hey, they're safe, they're saved. Wow. No, that's a bad reaction, or a foolish one, because they're impermanent anyways. They're gonna. It's as if there's everything is an illusion, even yourself. So to escape suffering, you wouldn't have an attachment. You would just observe those people dying, but they weren't really ever alive, and they were really never even not alive. Or, oh great, they're saved. Well, they're gonna die anyways. Siddhartha came up with this when he saw um, all of his concubines asleep. I know my hair is messed up, but this hat looks ridiculous on me. And he saw that they looked they didn't look as sexy, right? Like they reminded him of dead people, uh, and this really disturbed him that he was going to die one day. And then he went around, and I think he became a Jain for a while, and then when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, it tamed him, basically reaching enlightenment, nirvana, um, through these through this type of it's not even really meditation, um, mindfulness, not not even that, sitting and kind of observing without reacting, without interacting with anything or reacting to anything. So you can forget romantic love. That's having a child is just adding to the karma. Is just adding to karma, and karma is the enemy. It's more. I don't want to say it's like sin, but it's not good. And there's good and bad karma. No, all karma is bad because it causes action, and that's you're just adding to the delusional world. Um, so Buddhist societies never had any great strife to end war, right? Um, and try to cure diseases, try to any of this stuff, or even um, take a critical look at the world to try to right any wrongs, any end any injustices. I mean, just look at worse than the Nazis. Worse than the Nazis was Imperial Japan. I mean, objectively worse than the Nazis, more genocidal, more brutal. Many of them were Buddhists. I mean, they incorporated a lot of Zen Buddhism into their soldiers, into their training of I mean, how could you have to be detached when you're slaughtering a bunch of pregnant Filipino women or driving an airplane into a battleship to sink it. Um, so morality. Let me see if here's some quotes. Right and wrong are neither moral judgments nor arbitrary standards from the outside, though our own awareness we discover what is beneficial, quote unquote, right, and what is unbeneficial, quote unquote, wrong. Uh, there is no the Society of Buddhism, the Society for Promotion of Buddhism states there is no discrimination between right and wrong, but people make distinction for their own convenience. So there's no right and wrong. That's just up to you. Um, People make a distinction between good and evil, but good and evil do not exist separately. Those who are following the path to enlightenment recognize no such duality, and it leads neither to praise the good and condemn the evil, nor to despise the good and condone the evil. The Buddha approached truth more ontologically than morally. He considered deceit more foolish than evil. The idea of moral justice arises out of the conception of a supreme being, a God who sits in judgment, who is lawgiver, and who decides what is right and wrong. That is pretty spooky. I wonder if somebody's just magically putting up these quotes after that. Well, this isn't even uploaded yet. But that's pretty freaky. There is no Buddhist equivalent to the Christian notion of justice. Instead, Buddhism talks wisdom. Yeah, so the idea of Buddhism, that's fine. Now there's Mahayana Buddhism, right? That added a bunch of stuff to Theravada Buddhism or Hinayana Buddhism. And it looks more like an actual religion and actually incorporates some deities. And then you have Zen Buddhism, which brought in, or not Zen Buddhism, uh, Tibetan Buddhism, which brought in a bunch of stuff from folk religion and Tantra and Hindu magic and other gods and stuff like that. Now, I like Taoism, Confucianism, Zoroastrianism, and of course, uh, Eastern Orthodoxy, Roman Catholicism, Lutheranism. That's about it. But yeah, Buddhism. Um, it's pretty horrifying that just to go through life and romantic love is foolish. Um, having attachment to any loved ones, having loved ones, having people who are special and is just is foolish. Um, Trying to go up against any injustices in the world, any systems of slavery, of this is just foolishness. Um, you shouldn't have attachment to that. You should basically feel the same way or be at the same peace, whether you are on your deathbed or your wedding day. or the birth of a child, or the death of a relative, or the death of a child. Um, so, yeah, I don't see any great wisdom um, within Buddhism. Uh, the Eightfold Path, good. People want to embrace that and follow that. It's entirely encompassed within Christianity. Um, the Four Noble Truths I don't agree with, and the um, the detachment I find to be sociopathic. Because if you could kill somebody, and that wouldn't really affect your karma or create karma, it would be really your response to it. If you had any attachment to that, if you had any feelings of guilt or remorse or happiness or sadness, that's where you would attain the negativeness of karma. Not necessarily going through a village and wiping it out, because everything's impermanent. So, alright, peace to you. That's my video on Buddhism.